Gates at the White House.
Thanks, Stavros.
That's not good at all. No.
You guys good? Good? Good?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll call this meeting to order. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for attending tonight's meeting. Happy Martin Luther King Day, and a great day to celebrate a wonderful human being who really advanced the causes of civil rights. So happy Martin Luther King Day. In attendance tonight, we have Supervisor Ekman, Supervisor Friedman, Supervisor Albert, and I am Supervisor Birmingham, and we have one open seat for supervisor, and that's why we have our candidates here tonight. I do have the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I get a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. So we have our candidates here tonight, Mike and Virgil and John and Joe and Augie, and thank you guys all for willing to fill the position. This is to fill the position of Supervisor Dew, who resigned last year. Supervisor Dew's position is up in 2025. And so the candidate that we select as supervisors would finish out Supervisor Dew's term, and you'd be a supervisor of Upper Mount Bethel Township until the year 2025, till the end of 2025. This is a new process for us, so bear with us tonight. We've put together how tonight's interview is going to work, and I'm going to go over that now. But before I do that, again, candidates, thank you for your interest. I will ask our solicitor if you can just give us some guidance on questions that can or cannot be asked during an interview, so the supervisors know exactly what sort of questions they should stay away from.
Obviously, I think the question should center upon two or three areas. One area is their qualifications for the particular position. Another area would be what they hope to accomplish in that position. And a third area would be if they would have any concerns or questions of us. Obviously, personal items, matters involving family, children, etc., I don't think have any place for this this particular program, if you will. And I think that as long as you're asking those questions, those are legitimate questions. And you could do this in executive session. So your willingness to do this in a public forum shows this board's willingness to be transparent with respect to these matters. If one of the candidates would prefer not to answer because they believe that it causes them some personal embarrassment or concern, I think you need to honor that too if that occurs.
Great, thank you, Ron. And Ron, if you can also explain just for the public what the deadlines are for the supervisors, including how the vacancy board could play a role here, and even the courts.
Yes, the way it works is that once Mr. Dew tendered his resignation, the board could accept that resignation if it wanted to, and in this case, the board did not. I believe it was a 2-2 vote not to accept to accept the resignation, however you want to say it. It didn't.
4-0.
Or 4-0.
Yeah.
4-0, okay. So that meant that if it wasn't accepted, that at the latest 45 days from that tender of resignation, would the resignation be deemed accepted. If I recall, I'm using rough memory, the resignation came in somewhere in mid-November.
November 15th.
All right, so the 30 days then would, or the 45 days, I'm sorry, would run to December 30. 15 days in November and the 30 days in December. At that point, the Board of Supervisors had 30 days to appoint a new supervisor. And right now you are in that 30-day window. If in fact the board appoints a new supervisor, that's the end of that, and you continue on with the business of the board. If for some reason the board cannot select a new supervisor, then the vacancy board has 15 days in which to make that appointment. And the vacancy board is generally the Board of Supervisors plus the vacancy board chairman. So that makes it then a group of 5, so that the chance of having a 2-2 vote, if you will, doesn't really exist under that circumstance. If for some reason the vacancy board would not be able to appoint a supervisor, then the Court of Common Pleas, a judge of the Court of Common Pleas of Northampton County, a county judge would be able to make that appointment. So that's sort of how it goes.
Okay, thank you, Ron. And Mark Metzger is on the vacancy board, right, Mark? Okay, so if the supervisors don't we don't appoint someone by January 30th, then Mark would become with the 4 supervisors, and that would be the 5 who would have 15 days to appoint someone.
And I would say, Mr. Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt. Since the 45 days expired on December 30, you have 1 day left in December, so you add that to 29 in January, and that's when your 30 days are up, so it would be January 29th.
Great, thanks, Ron. Okay, so basically how we're going to do this is each supervisor is going to take a turn to ask a question. The supervisor can ask their question to all of you. Supervisor can ask his or her question to one of you, or maybe just a couple of you. It's up to the supervisor who the supervisor wants to answer that question. So if the supervisor says, my question is for all the candidates, then you guys will take turns to go up to the podium and answer the question. You'll have 2 minutes to answer the question, and the supervisor who asks the question can extend your time if the supervisor wants you to get out your full answer or to expand more. You know, it's up to the supervisor asking the question, whether they want to stop you at 2 minutes, or maybe someone puts in, is explaining something and the supervisor wants you to go beyond the 2 minutes. It's up to that supervisor asking the question. The way the supervisors will go, we'll start, I'm going to ask a question to start it off, then it's going to go Corey, David, Jason, and then myself. Okay, and like I said, you'll have 2 minutes for your response. We'll do 5 rounds of questions, and depending on how long it goes, we may take a 5-10 minute break, just so you guys can get a drink of water, or anybody needs a restroom break or whatever. Or we can carry through. We'll see how that goes. But after the 5 rounds of questions, then we'll open it up for questions. Each candidate can come up to the podium and ask 2 questions of the supervisors. The questions can be whatever you want, and we'll be happy to answer them. And then we'll go with another 5 rounds of questions, and that should wrap it up. But if the supervisors want to carry on with questions, or maybe maybe we only ask 3 questions. You know, it's kind of at our discretion. So, but I said 5 and 5, but it may be 3. You know, Corey may want to ask only 3 questions. David wants to ask 15 questions. I don't know, but that's how we're going to go. It's kind of let the supervisors just go with the flow in questions and the interview. And then at the very end, when the supervisors are done with their questions, each candidate will have the opportunity to come up and make, it's not a debate, but make some closing statement for 3 minutes and discuss why you are the best choice for the supervisors to appoint you as an Upper Mount Bethel Township supervisor. And I'll kind of direct you as we go through this whole process. After that, the public can come up for public comments. We do ask tonight that the public comments only be about the interview or about the candidates, because that's what we're here for tonight. It's a special meeting. Our next regular meeting is next Monday, January 22nd, and that's where you can do public comments about anything. But we're trying to hold that. And Ron, are we able to do that, to ask public comments just pertain to the interview or the candidates?
You can do that because, again, this is a special meeting set for a special purpose. If this was a general business meeting, I'm not quite sure if you could do that. But under those circumstances, I think you would be fine. And if I'm wrong, all right, then I know my way to the courthouse. I've been there many times.
Thank you, Ron. So tonight, because this is a special meeting, any supervisor can make a motion during tonight's meeting to appoint a candidate for supervisor. However, we do have this on our agenda for January 22nd to appoint a supervisor. And I would also say there is one candidate tonight who was unable to make it. Is he on the road crew for Palmer?
He's a superintendent,
Oh, he's a superintendent
equipment for Palmer Township.
for Palmer Township.
Tonight he has to be at the building for the impending storm.
And that's Corey.
Corey Nansteel.
Yeah. So I would say that to the supervisors to, anyone can make a motion to appoint a candidate, but we are missing one candidate tonight. So just out of fairness, we should talk to him as well. I will open up the interview. Let's go ahead and get started. And again, thank you guys for coming out tonight, and thank you for your willingness to serve. So my first question is, and this is for all the candidates, tell us why you want to be appointed a board of supervisor for Upper Mount Bethel Township. And Mike, we'll start it off with you. If you can just come up to the podium, because this is being live streamed, and we want to make sure everybody can hear it at home. So Mike, just give your full name, please.
It's Michael Onufrak, Onufrak, and I live on Summerfield Drive in Upper Mount Bethel. I've been coming to Board of Supervisors meeting for over a year. My wife and I have not missed one between the Board of Supervisors and the Planning Commission. And we've observed how this town has been run and the lack of transparency and the inability of the supervisors to listen to the members, the community, and truly address our questions and our needs. In my background as a labor union official, you talk to people all the time, and you listen to what they have to say, and you try to give them a good, intelligent answer. And that's my belief is, if I am put on the Board of Supervisors, and I'm asked a question, I will try my best to give them an honest answer. If a decision is made, and I agree with that decision, even if the townspeople don't like it, don't agree with it, like the text amendment, I would try to give them enough information to explain to them why my opinion is what it is, rather than be in the dark. And For that reason, I think I would be a good candidate. I think I can help this new board move forward, make some good changes, make some good decisions. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Mike. Virgil.
Repeat the question, please.
The question is, basically, why do you want to be appointed a supervisor of Upper Mount Bethel Township? Oh, and Virgil, just give your full name into the mic, please.
Yeah, it's Virgil Casebeer, North Bangor. So for me, you're competing against the best minds in the township here. And I just feel I'd like to be a part of it. Tried to stay away for a while. I've been out of the loop for a few years, and now I'm back again. So I want to see where it goes.
Great, thank you, Virgil.
You're welcome.
John, go ahead. And just give your full name, please.
Jonathan Erler, 280 Saddle Creek Drive. I've been living here for 8 years. I came to a lot of town meetings. I'm an alternate on the zoning board. I have 2 small children. I'd like to live here for a while, and I do want to see this town get a lot better. Within the last 6 years, I've seen this town go down pretty quickly due to either supervisor almost neglect, but the big business that's coming into the town, which is why we voted for Corey and Jason to really fight that fight. So I'm under the impression that will be handled. There are a lot of other things, such as transparency, as you said, that is really important. Listening to the townspeople, which Birmingham, I think that's what you do perfectly. I know that Mr. Pinter made a comment at the last board where he attacked you for it, and I almost thought that was your strong suit. Something that I think the council is lacking is with accounting and budgeting, which I've had past businesses, and I like numbers. So that is one point that I can greatly assist. I do have the time for it. I'm not struggling with other responsibilities. This would be a full commitment from me. And again, for my children, I want to make this township the best it can be. And I don't really know exactly what that is, but I hope to find out with the help of all you guys.
Thanks, John. Joe?
Name is Joe Torrey. I've been living here in Upper Mount Bethel now for 8.5 years, and the road is Institute Road. And I just like to say, I thought about what to say here, and it's just like, you can say a number of things, but it's only someone's word of honor. But I will say this, I did do 3 years in the U.S. Army. I came out as a buck sergeant in charge of communications. And that was radio, teletype, and Morse code. And you have to be able to lead men at all times in any which way direction, but it has to be as a team player. Now, I'm not going to go into all my aspects on that. I just want to say my next job was being a lineman for Jersey Central Power and Light, 35 years. I had anywhere from 3 to 50 men at all times. And believe me, when you have people out of power, you better get them back in. And I like to say that I can see that the township is torn between this side and this side. I seen it the last meeting. I know you could hear me. I seen it at the last meeting. Now, Mr. Pintner he had some advice for all of yous, and sort of like picked you apart, but that comes with the territory. But Mr. Pintner has a good point. River Point right now, I'd say it seems to be like a problem, but it's not really a problem. We have to have a solution. Because if that's going to be a manufacturing type facility, that could bring in a lot of jobs. A lot of jobs. And since Mr. Pintner has experience with finances, he'd be the man to talk to. Because Lou Pector is well known. And I will say this for you for Lou Pector. I talked to somebody one day that met him. And that man said to him, why don't you use the railroad? And he said, that's why I bought Portland Power Plant. Because I plan on making that a railway station right there so we can import and export most of our whatever products he's making. I heard it could be pharmaceutical and medical. Now that's a great asset, and I tell you what, you could have a lot of people here have some decent jobs, probably paying $80,000 to $100,000 a year. So I think that is the biggest problem right now. But like I said, hey, a solution for everything. I'm willing to work with the board. Me, I don't like progress. I really don't. I'm going to be honest with you. That's why I side with these people. But then I see the reality of this side with Mr. Pintner and others. It has to be looked at in all different directions. Every one of us need to be together and think. It's good that you have everybody here because everyone's opinion is what counts. And I know this can be brought to an understanding between all of us. And that's all I have to say for that for now. That's just one solution for one problem. But I know there's more. Look at the garbage too. That was a big surprise for all of us, even though there's some of us that can afford it, but it still isn't right for the others. And there should be some kind of supplement for people that are retired. There's a lot of things we can talk about, and we could be here all night. I know I could be here till midnight talking, but I don't want to talk that long. I think you guys would get pretty bored with me after a while, right?
All right.
All right, that's all I got to say.
Thank you, Joe. Augie?
My name is Augie Percoco. That's P-E-R-C-O-C-O. You know, one of the advantages of being the last one on the list is you get to hear everybody else's ideas. And so I'm not going to repeat everything that's been said. What I will say is I came here about 10 years ago, I guess it was, when I moved up from Palmer Township with my family. We bought a small farm, 15 acres. We raise horses. The reason we came up here is because it's a beautiful area. It's not like Palmer Township. It's not like New Jersey, which I came from. And we like the country life. I grew up on Staten Island. I was very fortunate that in my career I became a CEO of a major manufacturing company, an international company in Bethlehem, Straumann Valves. We started with 50 people in New Jersey. I moved them to Pennsylvania, and it grew to 190 people with 3 locations, 2 in Europe and 2 here in the United States. The company grew from 14 million to over 50 million, and it became highly successful. I don't attribute that to me. I attribute it to being able to put together a staff that knew what they had to do and did it. My strengths are strategic planning, budgeting, deal making, and cooperation, and understanding and listening to my people, my managers. And I think that's what's needed here. Some of the problems that were mentioned, I'm not going to comment whether River Point is good or bad. It could be good or it could be very bad. It depends how it's structured and how you put it together. And that requires negotiation. As far as the garbage, I don't know if there was any negotiation. Somebody just maybe signed the contract, and we are the recipients. I'm retired now, so, you know, I'm on a fixed budget, and I'd like to stay here for a nice long time. But I understand what the problems are, and if we don't correct the problems correctly, and we don't use good fiscal responsibility in managing this township, it's going to become unaffordable. And a lot of people that want to stay here won't be able to. And that's why I'm interested in joining the board. I joined the Economic Development Board, and I see what they're trying to do to try to stimulate the businesses that keep them solvent. We have a big problem in Portland, as you know, with Route 611. A lot of those people are going to lose their jobs. So if there's any way we can exert any effort to help that, it would certainly help us as well. That's the reason why I would like to get involved. I have plenty of time. Thank you.
Thanks, Augie. All right, I'll turn it over to Corey, and Corey, go ahead, and just state if you're asking the question to all the candidates or just specific ones, but the floor is yours.
The one question I have for Virgil and Augie, you said it now, is what the reason was that you moved to Upper Mount Bethel. Virgil, I know you've been here forever. Augie, you just said it. You came up, you know, it's a beautiful area, horse farm. Everybody else has been here 8 to 10 years. What brought you to Upper Mount Bethel? Mike?
What brought me to Upper Mount Bethel? You really want me to go there?
Yeah, because it's live streamed, and we want people to hear it from home.
My wife and I, we lived on Long Island. I retired at 62, the end of April. And in July of 62, we moved permanently to Mount Bethel. Prior to having this house built, we used to come every weekend, stay with my wife's sister up in Scott Run, and we went out with a realtor every weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and we would see 5 or 10 houses. We did that for probably a year before we finally decided that what we liked we couldn't afford, except for 2 homes we put a bid on and didn't get them, and the rest of the homes we looked at were not. I'm not handy, so I can't do a fixer-upper, but in any case, we went to LTS, sat down, picked out the model that we wanted. We drove around to every development that LTS had available property. And the one that we liked the most was the property that we ended up buying in Upper Mount Bethel. We originally were going to buy and build in Jackson Township, but that fell through. And then the LTS came back and offered me this piece of property, which I had wanted from the very beginning. My wife and I drive around all the time. We love the way this town looks. It reminds me of Long Island when I was a kid and we moved out of Brooklyn to this town like Ronkonkoma. It was a lot of farmland, a lot of potato farms back then. Now it's all wineries. But a lot of open space, a lot of young people, beautiful community, and that's what we thought we still think up in Mount Bethel is that. We just think that there are things that can be done to protect that. And part of it is, I know RPL keeps coming up, and somebody had said that the board is opposed to any construction there. And I have said at various meetings that it's zoned industrial. Lou Peck, the board, he has a right to develop it. But I personally think 10 buildings of 7 million square feet, with all the traffic, the noise, the light, it's just too much for this town. So I would like to see, my understanding is we need the development, we need it for a tax base. I understand that, and I can appreciate that. But the size of this project is way too big for this town.
Thank you.
I know I went further than what you really wanted, but that's it.
My father bought Izzy Capizzolo's old house, and if you don't know who that is, that's the Saddle Creek development, the 380 acres that were all split off. And we used it as a vacation house. And every time I came up from Long Island, we would hear gunshots in the distance or quads ripping by. And I was a Boy Scout. I made it to Eagle Scout. I am a very nature-oriented person. I really want to preserve as much as I can, use it, enjoy it, not restrict it. And when I got the opportunity to, I sold my house on Long Island. We moved up here. I have been a new person, being in my own element. Yeah, that's the reason I moved here. Was there any depth in that question that you want me to expand on, or?
No, just some people, when they move to Mount Bethel, they say, oh, it's close to the Poconos, skiing, just what brought you here? The ruralness, just, close to my commute to drive to New York, or, just what brought you to this town?
Yeah, the nature-oriented base of the town, and that's why I think that it is crucial to protect it. And I know that change is inevitable, and to embrace it, but you can embrace it while still maintaining your core beliefs and the why people move from all parts of areas into here. And I don't understand why those same people then want to change it. And that's a big question that I always ask anyone that comes in. Thanks.
Thank you.
That it?
Joe.
Okay.
Okay, the reason I moved here was the same as everybody that probably lives here right now and is in this room. It's beautiful. It's 42 square miles. That's vast. And you know what? You look around, there's a lot of farms here still left. You don't see that anymore hardly in New Jersey. And that's where I came from, Alpha. A little town called Alpha, 2,000 people populated. But once it became more and more progressive, guess what? It went downhill. Same thing with Powhatan Township in New Jersey. But up here, I'll tell you what, it's like a whole new world. Everybody knows that. Now, where I live over there on Institute Road, the Poliskowitz are at one end, the Communel's at the other. And I'll tell you what, it's like a little piece of heaven. I really hate to see this whole community be ruined because of people not working together. People need to get together and just talk our differences. And I'm telling you, we can come up with a solution. That's all we need to do, is talk about everything and look at the cons and the pros of everything, no matter what that could be. And I just want to see us, is everybody working together and being team players. I don't like it no more than you do probably. I mean, you four were called out last week, pretty much ripped apart. I don't like that. That's not called for. We should be able to get along and talk to each other, especially all these citizens out here. Because we all are citizens here. Every one of us. That's why we're here, because we like it. It's a last piece on earth, to me, that shows that it's a little bit of piece of heaven. That's all I have to say.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay, David?
Okay, this would be for each candidate going down the line. I'd like to know one specific thing you, as a candidate or supervisor, would like to be a proponent of, and one specific thing you would like to see the board as a whole do. So we'll start with Mr. Picaro. Picoco, I'm sorry. Picoco, I'm sorry.
I think the one thing that I would like to see us do would be to look at the decisions that we make and what the impact it is on the community, mostly from a fiscal responsibility. As I said earlier, I lived in New Jersey. I lived in Long Valley, New Jersey. When I moved there, the taxes were $4,000. When I left, they were $18,000. Part of it was because there was no rateable base, but the other part was a lot of decisions are made, not negotiated. People don't look at how can we cut cost, as opposed to budgeting. We say, well, let's just add 6% this year because that's what inflation is. I ran a company, and every year we had goals set to reduce our expenses by $250,000. That included negotiating better contracts, whether it was garbage disposal, whether it was with vendors. And I think the same thing, a lot of times boards, because you know, it's not a full-time job. People don't have the time to do that. But if you work together, you can find ways to fiscally manage this township so we can minimize the tax base rate, which is inevitable if we don't do something like that. You saw last year what happened with the sanitation. I can tell you, I live on the same street as Cindy. We pay for it, but we can't even use it. We rented a separate, because we're on a dirt road. It's very hard to bring those containers back and forth from our houses. And you can't walk them down. So we wound up getting a private container. So we're paying double. We still pay the township, obviously. But I don't want to see other people going through that. I think there's a better way to do these things. And I like to be a small part of the solution, not the problem.
Thank you.
You know what I'd like to see? I like what Nick said last week, January 8th, Monday night. He had a good point about leasing a backhoe or buying a backhoe because we have the money. There's lots of ways to do it. You should have a backup team, just like Nick was saying. One north, one south. That's a perfect example right there. Nick's right. We need another backhoe. Some people would say no. And they would say, well, 4,000 hours? Listen, I got a backhoe that's got over 6,000 hours and still functional. That right there is just a small example. You know as well as I do, we can lease one, rent one, whenever it's capable, whatever we could do, or we could even buy one. But is it going to cut us short of other funds? You never know when you need this extra money for something. And to me, that's just one part right there that I'd like to discuss if I ever got to be a board member. That'd be the first on the list, because that needs to be rectified. That's all I got to say.
What I'd like to see the board do, I'll answer that first, is to follow through with their promise to be transparent. I know that that is a difficult task when you get into the nitty-gritty of every single thing. But if we had full transparency, I honestly don't think that that text amendment would have passed. I won't go into what I might believe is behind closed doors or anything like that, but if someone didn't make out sweetly on that deal, the whole town lost. So transparency as a town government. What I would spearhead, I recently just took my home off the grid, and it took me a year from concept to reality, and currently we are not on the grid. We have solar, I have a wind turbine that's going to be going up, and battery powered. I did it 100% by myself. No assistance. I took the time to learn it, to learn the different aspects, what I need to gauge to make it work. And currently, since November 5th, it's been working. I saw what they did in Bethlehem about putting the solar panels on the school. There was a lot of kickback on that. They were expecting to pay everything off in, I believe it was 7 years, and they paid it off in 2. They then moved that extra power to their municipality buildings, and they're trying to expand on something that was a shot in the dark. And with the way that green energy has been going forward and the state and federal rebates, I think it is a viable way, if not for the town to be a little bit more self-sufficient and green for the environment. If we could make money on it, great. It'll subsidize other things. Touching on your point about the truck being needed, I don't think that's a yes or no question. I think that looking into the numbers of if we rent a truck every year during our storm season, you said it was $5,000 for a month?
That's a loader, not a truck.
The loader?
Yeah, right now it's $5,000 a month.
So what is that? 56 years that we could rent it every season for the price of a truck? And we don't have to do maintenance on it? So I think looking into it deeper is a better way. I absolutely see your point that having 2 crews, worthwhile. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I've done construction. I know that if something happens, you could be down and out for multiple days. So I do absolutely see the strong suit in that. But the cost, what is the best way to achieve that goal with spending the least amount of taxpayer money so that we can, you know,
Do that every day.
I believe you. I believe you. And given your background and history, I talked to Brian Reesley just to kind of vet you a little. He's all for you, so you got his vote. Yeah, the constable for Washington Township.
Oh, right, yeah, good man.
Yeah, he is. So when he gave you the thumbs up, I was on board with it. But yeah, going green. If we can't do it, we can't do it. But I think that it's worth investing the time to at least look at the numbers, find out what the benefits could be, and if the time is well spent on it, then I'm more than willing to put that time in. Thank you.
Once again, here we are in a garage. One of the first things I'd be looking at is a new building. We really need that.
When you appoint the 5th board member, you have 3 brand-new novices on the board. And I don't know where Corey's expertise is or Jason's. I know what mine is, and it's not municipal government. That's not what I did working for a labor union. However, the one thing I've always learned is when you don't know something, but you know somebody who does know about that, you should go talk to them. Even if you don't particularly like them. At the last meeting that you guys had, I talked to Martin Pinter for 15 minutes. And Nick, you may be right about the need for that piece of equipment. And Mr. Pinter believes that we don't really need it. I believe the board should bring in somebody like Martin Pinter, who has some expertise. Even somebody like my arch enemy, Ron Angle. The guy's been here forever. He knows a lot of stuff.
No personal names, Mr. Chairman.
All right, that guy, he's been here forever. He knows a lot of things about this town, about how things work.
Excuse me, he's right. Let's not get personal.
Okay. So I thought I was being complimentary, but that's okay. But there are people in this town. I'm actually amazed at how many people in this town have been here for lifetimes. So, and I've only been here 10 years. So I think not just the board working together, that's a given. You have to work together. We can't have 3-2 votes. You know, if 2 people are opposed to something, then the 3 have an obligation to explain to them why they should vote a different way and try to convince them. If they can't, they can't. But I believe that there are experts in this town that the board should consider bringing in and talking to them, no matter who they are.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Jason?
Okay. This is going to be for everyone. In your opinion, what's your idea of the balance between sustainable industry and conserving and preserving open space? Is there a push or take, or what's your opinion on conserving open space, you know, versus going full bore with the industry, knowing that we need a sustainable industry, but not as big as we're looking at, or you know, maybe whatever comes in. So what's your opinions on conserving the open space, and what's your ideas on bringing in sustainable industry? Sure.
You need a balance. It's very clear. And one of the things about this township is we have a lot of open space. You've got the Great Swamp Park, you've got Lake Mincy, you've got, I forget what the other one was, the Bear Creek. But we have lots of open space. We have one area which is dedicated to industrial development. Now, I don't think any of us want to see warehouses go in, including Mr. Pector. I'll tell you why. Warehouse space goes for a lot less than industrial space. I know because I looked at it when I moved to Bethlehem. It's really a function of how it's put in and what the footprint is going to be and what the impact is going to be. In most cases, when we moved our facility over to Bethlehem out of Florham Park, New Jersey, we met with Bethlehem. We had explained what we were doing, even inside of our building. We were a machine shop. They wanted to know what chemicals we were using. We wanted to make sure it didn't have any adverse effect. There was a school behind us. They wanted to make sure there wasn't a high level of noise. So what I'm saying is the township has a responsibility. Look, it's going to be inevitable. We're going to be bringing in ratables. This township needs it. We have I think you said it was 80 some odd acres, or 46 miles. 42 square miles, 80% of which doesn't pay a full tax base. 80% does not pay a full tax base, which puts the onus on the people that have houses. And I went through this in Longville, as I told you. My taxes went up from $4,000 to $18,000, and that's forced us to move out. They didn't want to have industry. Well, I don't want to have industry here either, but if we're going to have it, let's do it the smart way. Let's put it someplace where it doesn't impact 42 square miles. Maybe it impacts 5 miles, but let's make sure it doesn't have an adverse effect on that. You know, and I think that requires negotiating with Pector, making sure he understands what the township needs, not just saying, you know, do whatever you want. It doesn't work that way.
That was very nice, Augie. I agree with you. But like I said before, and I'm going to be honest, I'm not for progress. I'm not. But if it means bringing in sustainable jobs for community people here first, like if he had an agreement, I don't know if you could do this, but from the beginning, whoever the board members were back then, they should have had a stipulation, like let's say 65% of all the import and export of any kind of manufacturing supplies they needed would be coming in on the rail, not tying up traffic down here on Potomac Street and all the way down 611 and 512. Think about it. That should have been done back then. All these stipulations should have been put back in then. It's not your guys' fault. It's not. It's not your fault. But it can still be worked out with Lou Pector. I'm telling you, I talked to him myself. And he is a decent man. He's trying to do what he thinks best because he knows he's going to run into a brick wall if he doesn't. He wants to bring in jobs, sustainable jobs that are respectable and productive. And it's not going to be no giant warehouse. But he knows he's got his, he's got his problems. He's got to bring water in there. He's got to bring septic in there. There's a lot going on. But I do like open space. I mean, Institute Road, there's a conservancy across the street for reptiles. As you know, they closed that down for the whole month of April. And that's just for salamanders, the blue-spotted salamanders. Okay. If you have any other question, that was just one I had that I wanted to state, because that is the most important, I think, going on in this community right now that needs to be rectified. We got to come up with a solution. And I think if you put in like a stipulation like this, hey, 75% of the hirees, they have to be from this community. You know he's not, but maybe you could get 50%. There's lots of ways to do things. So, all right, that's all I got to say.
I would be, as for sustainable industry, I would be more advantageous to go with mom and pop shops. Perhaps passing incentives along for people that are residents of Mount Bethel to give them a chance to make a little bit more money and impact the community the way that Horns does, or Johnsonville. Those are community bread and butter stores. Everyone knows them. Everyone knows the people there. Generally, if you live here, you need something from one of those places. I did talk about the going green either with solar or wind turbines, because God knows we have a lot of wind here. If that can be profitable, that is something that I would look for. I do know that Pector is trying to get other businesses to move into his little city that he's been building. I don't know if he's going to be passing the tax rebates that we're giving him to his businesses that he's trying to get in. I don't know if there's too much we can do about it, but those jobs will, if the businesses go in there and move in, that will benefit the community. So this isn't really a defined question. I believe that this has a lot of moving parts. I do not want a Walmart moving into Mount Bethel because it'll drop everyone's taxes by $5 a year. This is something that really needs to be analyzed, and I'd rather small businesses than larger ones. Yeah.
We do need more business here. We got a lot of preserved land. I'm not sure what the acres are, but I know it's quite a bit. We do need more businesses here to keep up with our neighboring municipalities.
This is a rural area, and we should try to keep it as rural as possible. So I'm not in favor of getting rid of farms and letting developers just put up, 500 homes or things like that. The only area I think that's zoned industrial is where Lou Pector wants to put his project. If I'm wrong, you'll have to correct me. I thought, or I think, that if it's possible, the board could look at the township, the zoning map, and see if there are other areas where we could allow some, not necessarily industrial development, but commercial development. A hotel, a movie theater, stores, anything that fits into the community, that we're more likely to get jobs for our citizens. They're not going to get jobs at engineering buildings in RPL. That's not going to happen. And not to be disrespectful, but he's building a 1.5 million square foot building he's proposed. That's not manufacturing unless Ford is building cars there. That's a warehouse. Almost all of these buildings are large enough to be warehouses. Not engineering, not manufacturing. They're going to be warehouses, big and small. They're not going to be tons of jobs. So we as a board, or you guys have as a board, whoever the fifth man is, have to decide what do we want and where do we want it. But I don't think you can negotiate with Lou Pector. He's been to enough meetings to hear what the overwhelming majority of the township has said. Has he come back and said, well, listen, let's sit down and see if we can do something different? I haven't heard him do that. And somebody said something about he's got manufacturers coming. Well, if he does, he hasn't told us, because when he's been asked, the answer has been, we don't have to tell you. We don't have to tell you who we might bring in until we get the building permit. So I don't know how you know who he's bringing in, because nobody else does.
Okay, thanks. All right, I'll ask my next question. It'll go to all supervisors. And then Corey, if you want to ask another question, I'll leave it to you. If we want to take a break, a 5-10 minute break, you just let me know after that. But my question, this goes to all the candidates. My question is, and John, we'll start with you, and since I know we've been starting with either Augie or Mike, we'll go right down the middle, and then we'll go Joe, Augie, Mike, Virgil. But John, my question is, what are the 3 most important things a local government should be responsible for?
I got the pleasure of sitting right in the middle to give myself time either way, so thanks for evening out the playing field. The 3 most important things that the township is responsible for is managing the budget, listening and perhaps acquiescing to residents' concerns and issues, and maintaining the township's overall health, whether that be, if you want to take it a more natural, a more business and money oriented way, but they set the goal as to where next year and the year after that, where you are trying to get to. And again, sometimes that gets diverted when you listen to your residents. When they say, we changed our minds, we don't really want to do this anymore. And I don't think it should be as definite as, no, we said we're doing it, we're going to do it. If enough people say, we had a change of heart, we thought about it more, we don't want to, I think it is fully in the board's power and their responsibility to reanalyze what they're doing, what the people want them to do. They are elected, and we may have the privilege of not having to run a campaign and to go out and shake hands and kiss babies, but like all you guys had to do. I was considering running for the last appointment, but after talking to the people that were around me, I got nothing against you guys, and you're probably more fit for the seats than I was. So I tipped my hat and said, be with it. And I did vote for you. So yes, those are what I think the 3 things that the township should be responsible for.
Thank you, John. Joe?
My 3 things would be this. First, safety from people from 1 to 91. That's my concern. Throughout this whole meeting and throughout the meetings that I've seen and heard, hey, everyone matters. Everyone in this room matters. To me, they do. That's why we're here. We're here as a functioning body to represent what they want. That's why I'd say, when I was mentioning to you before about River Point, I'm not going to say it again. I said enough about it. But I'll tell you this, we got to come to an agreement. We got to come to do something. No matter what it is, we do. We have to do it for everyone that's out here and in this room and throughout this whole county. That's my first agenda. Second, I'd like to keep this as rural as possible. I said I'm not for progress, I'm not, but I'm willing to listen to what River Point has to offer. It's the only fair thing to do. This is a democracy still. We all see what's going on around the world right now, and it is chaos. Let's try to keep this community at least somewhat sane. And I know everyone in this room agrees with me. I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican or an independent. Doesn't matter. We all know right from wrong. And the third thing, I just like to see everybody get along. That's what I'd like to see. That's it.
Thanks, Joe. Augie?
I think your question was, what are the most important things that a township should provide?
The three most important things that a government is responsible for.
Okay. The first one is, I think was mentioned, fiscal responsibility, managing the budget. And that's not just adding what you need to do next year, it's figuring out how to control the budget, how to bring the cost and keep it in line with what revenues are coming in. You know, it's called zero-based budgeting. You know how much taxes you have, how much do you have to afford to spend, and how do you spend it? That's number one. Number two is accessibility. You need to take care of the roads. The worst thing you want to do is have people sliding off the roads in a snowstorm and hurting themselves. That's number two. And number three, I think was mentioned also, was safety. You know, people are going to get sick. You need to have fire. They're going to have fires. People get sick. You're going to need ambulance service, and you need protection. There's different ways to get it. You don't have to provide it here, but you can contract for some of it. But, you know, they need to go hand in hand. You know, I listened to some of the things that were in the NID. I think it was at one of the meetings that we were at, John. There was a question that we need to spend $1.8 million for a fire truck. Well, I went home and I went online and I found a truck. I think it was about 6 years old. It had 30,000 miles. It was a 110-foot ladder, and it was $285,000. Well, I'll tell you what, if you bought it for $285,000, it takes a lot of repairs and a lot of refurbishment to get up to $1.8 million. And when you consider how much that truck will be used, you know, that's the kind of things I'm talking about. Do you really need to spend $1.8 million? So, you know, to me, that's the number one thing, because if we don't manage the budget correctly, we're going to drive people out. As much as they love this community, they're not going to be able to afford it. And unfortunately, we're all aging. I like to think I was younger, but I'm not. Retirement snuck up on me when I was least expecting. And it's a big change when you go from working and having money to living on a fixed income. So those are the most important things in my mind.
Thanks, Augie. Mike?
It's hard to come up with something different than what's already been said, because I pretty much agree. Balancing the budget, making sure that our taxes stay in line is probably the most important thing. Safety, I think we've done a great job. Nick's crew has done a great job clearing the roads with the snow. I know, John, you pushed to get the stop things on school buses so that people stop zooming past buses as they pick up the kids. So that's sort of safety, things like that. And the third thing I think the town has done a great job, but probably can do better, is community involvement, especially recreation stuff. I know we've done all kinds of stuff, from movie nights to auctions, yard sales, continuing in that vein, and maybe there's a way to expand that, to get more people involved in the town's activities.
Thanks, Mike. Virgil?
safety, people, road/infrastructure.
Thank you, Virgil.
You're welcome.
All right, why don't we, we're going to take a 5 to 10 minute break, and then when we resume, the candidates can ask us questions to begin, okay? So we'll take a 5-10 minute break. Thanks. Water?
More than 2,000 gallons, less than 2,000. Okay. Very good.
Okay, thanks, everyone. And I just want to say real quickly, I want to thank our volunteer fire departments. They had a big day yesterday all around town, getting trees out of harm's way, opening up the Mount Bethel Firehouse as a warming station. I want to thank our ladies auxiliary, our road crew. Nick, thank you as well. You were out and about, and thanks for meeting with me yesterday. So big thanks to our volunteer fire departments, Mount Bethel, North Bangor, our road crew, our ladies auxiliary. We do have a heck of a town, and when people need to step up, they really do step up. So thank you, everyone, for all your help yesterday. With that being said, we will continue our interview, and we will turn it over to the candidates. And we'll start with you, Augie, since we started with Mike in the beginning. If you want to come up to the podium and ask us, you have 2 questions that you can ask us. And if you have more, then the supervisors will just take it under consideration. But the floor is yours.
Just have one question. You had asked all of us what we brought to the table and why we wanted to be considered for that position. What are you looking for in terms of a supervisor, somebody to fill the open slot?
Anybody want to start?
Well, just the fact that we had 6 people, I mean, I think says a lot about the character of the ones who, want to come up here and sit here and take the abuse, but, I'm looking for someone who has the best interest of the township in mind. I mean, we're relatively, I wouldn't say small, we're a small community, and we got, like everybody's been saying, we got to get along with each other. But as long as you're willing to come up here and work with us and everybody else, I think, you'll be a valuable asset to this board and the community.
Corey, Jason, anything you want to add?
No, it's basically what I was going to say.
Yeah, basically same thing. Just we want to work together, work with residents, and do what's best for the township. I mean, it's exactly why I chose to run.
Yeah.
The pay's nothing to speak of.
Wait, we get paid?
Yeah, I mean, that's the bottom line, Augie, is that we're not going to agree on everything, but that doesn't mean that we can't communicate with each other, and we should be able to discuss with each other where you're coming from, where I'm coming from, what is the overall goal that we need to reach here, and how are we going to reach it. And yeah, transparency and working together. I mean, that's what it's about with Upper Mount Bethel, so not much to add, but good question. Joe?
I wasn't going to ask you anything, really.
You don't have to. It's just
we're
giving
I
you
hear the word
chance.
transparency tonight a couple times, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, it means honesty. That's one thing I'm looking at. Can I trust you if I'm on that board with you? Because you can trust me. Once I get to know you, believe me, I got your back. But I'd have to know if you do when the time comes. That's my biggest thing, is honesty. Just like they just said, everybody in this room knows. And I know you guys have been accused of things which I don't agree with, because saying something and proving it are 2 different subjects. So, I actually answered my question to your question. But I want that to be known. And I'm saying it in front of everybody in this room, because I have nothing to hide. Nothing. You can try and look up all kinds of dirt on me, and you're going to find nothing. But I promise this. I give my word of honor. I will work with you. And I'll be there for you and help you. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. John?
Would you like me to ask both questions first?
Yeah, if you want to
Or
ask,
you want me to space them out, wait for the answer, and then I have two questions.
why don't you ask a question, let us respond, and do another question.
Okay. The first question was supposed to just be for Corey and Jason, but David, you kind of fit into that question as well. Since newly elected, what is one thing you did not expect when you took the role of supervisor, being that you're newly elected? And Friedman, if you want to expand on that, being on the council for, I think it's 2 years now, you know, you're not amateur, but you're not seasoned yet, so same question for you.
The one thing I found is the time involved. And you better have a lot of desk space for your paperwork, because there's a lot of, it's a government, paperwork, all kinds of paperwork. And I've been, I'm now the liaison for the office and the road crew, so I'm constant meetings. But if you really want to get involved with the township, it's going to take a lot of your time. And I think you're going to have to be organized just to make sure you can get all your ducks in a row, so you know what's going on, and when you come to the meeting, you're prepared. So that's all. I hope I answered your...
Definitely the amount of reading and emails all day long, but other than that is, honestly, I wish there was one more day in a week just to dedicate with working a full-time job, but one more day just so when a resident calls and says, hey, can you come check this out? I have a water issue, or I have this, that I'm able to run right out, instead of saying, well, can you wait till 6:30 when I get out of work? You know, I wish there was just that, a little bit more of freedom that you could obligate to just being when a resident would need something.
I was going to blame Nick for all the signatures he made me sign the last. I mean, honestly, you got to remember that as a supervisor, and we're new. We haven't even finished it for a full month, but we are the caretakers of the taxpayers' money. So every decision we make, we have to have the taxpayers in mind, because we're responsible for your money. So that's one thing that you always have to constantly think of in the back of your head. Every decision has to be made, because it's got to benefit. It may not benefit everybody, but it's got to make sure that we're fiscally prudent with your money.
My second question is, to play fair and not leave you out of it, is for Mr. Birmingham. Very curious to know if it's more difficult leading green, other, being that you're the veteran on the at the table now. Is it easier moving forward with a council that doesn't know everything just yet? Or is it easier to be a member with a council that has a lot more knowledge, but maybe a little bit more strong-minded?
That's a good question. I'm going to refer to my solicitor to help me out. No. Well, there's pros and cons, I think, to both. You know, having a new government right now, you got fresh eyes and you got fresh ideas, and you got excitement and passion. And then if you got a bunch of knowledgeable, seasoned individuals, you might have so many different directions. Like, I know how it's got to be done, and this is the way it should be. They might have more knowledge, so they've been around the block. They understand how government works. But I'm excited about this government right now, because I've talked to all these individuals. David and I have worked together for a couple of years. David and I have a good relationship. We don't agree on everything, but we talk to each other and explain each of our sides. And with new government, with Jason and Corey and one of you, there's going to be new ideas. And my job as chairman is say, yeah, I've done this for 8 years now, and here's what hasn't worked in the past, and kind of say, maybe you want to throw out ideas and give some ideas of what we could do. Here's what we tried in the past. It didn't work. So I have to use my history and my experience to help them, and I want them to help me, because if I'm stuck in my way and I think it should be done a certain way, these guys may say, John, did you ever think about this? And they'll open my eyes. So to answer your question, I like working with the current government right now, because we're all open to new ideas and we all want what's best for the township. And we're on the same page, not on everything, and we shouldn't be on the same page on everything, but we are on the same page of how we think about Upper Mount Bethel Township. But thanks. I hope that answered your question. Best as a politician can do. Virgil?
I don't have any questions for you.
Okay, thanks. Mike?
I have two questions. One, it has to do with the wastewater drip irrigation field on that farm. You know, I've said many times at meetings that I'm adjacent to it. So clearly, I don't want to put there. And I'm curious how the board feels about not letting, meaning advising the zoning board, if that's the way it's done, not to agree to change whatever the zoning regulations are, to let them put it there. That RPO's got enough property that they can put it on their own property and not put it in a residential area that will directly impact. There's 18 homes on Summerfield Drive that will be negatively impacted, plus the homes that are along Potomac. So I really would like to know what your general feelings are about that drip irrigation field going there. Or is this not the place to discuss that or the time?
Yeah, go ahead, Corey.
Well, I live on Potomac Street, so what I would do is my best interest would be for everybody else that it's around. So what I would like to see to protect myself is how I would like to see everybody else that's protected with that running behind their houses. So I would want to make sure that whatever is the right thing is what I would support.
No, personally, I don't think it should go there, but actually it's going to be up to the zoning hearing board. I mean, the zoning hearing board is separate from us. That's their own entity, everything else. So it's basically up to what the zoning hearing board has to say.
I read the zoning codes today, particularly about that issue. And I don't think it can be put there, but whatever pressure can be put on the zoning officer, I think would be beneficial. The other question has to do with Act 5537. All the meetings I've gone to, frequently, that's come up. And my understanding is the last time that we had a plan was 1990. So is there any idea of how to go forward to try to get a viable 537 plan? And with that, somebody asked me a question, in case it came up today, about Portland. And I know that there was, in the past, and I don't have the information, we tried to work something out with Portland, and it didn't happen. And I'm just curious if it would be possible if, got a new board. Whatever happened in the past was the past. If the new board approached Portland about hooking up those homes on 611 that have an issue, not the whole town, because the whole town doesn't have an issue. There's a relatively small number of homes that are adversely affected by their situation. Is there a possibility of reaching out to Portland and to try to get those people into the Portland system, which would help, I believe, help us with our 537 plan? So I'd like to know what your thoughts are.
Anyone want to answer?
It seems like every administration is kicking this 537 down the road. And maybe, just maybe, we can get our rear end gear, maybe get it done. But Portland has said now that they cannot act with Upper Mount Bethel unless there is a 537 plan. That's what they have stated. So,
Corey, did you want add
Well, I
anything?
think what we spoke about in the last meeting, where we need to start meetings with our neighbors as a new board, and some of, our surrounding towns, they have new board members now too. So I think that's, once we start and we can try to make amends with our neighbors, then we might be more willing to help with the issues.
Yeah, I think that's a great point that Corey said. We are going to have a special meeting. I'm going to work with you, Cindy, where we're going to talk and invite Portland and Lower Mount Bethel and Bangor and Knowlton, New Jersey, and let's open up a dialogue, because we never really conversed with them. As far as I know, we went to their meetings, asked for things, and that was it. But I think this board is going to is very open and willing to talk to our neighbors, because this whole development is going to affect them as it affects us, and we want to be good neighbors. So, yeah, I think we can do certain things with our neighbors in terms of whether it's the development or a 537 plan or whatever it be. But yeah, I think we're willing to talk to them, and we'll see if they're willing to talk to us. But we got to smooth out the relationships, no doubt. Any other questions from any of the candidates? Okay, any other questions for the candidates from the supervisors?
I think all of our questions have been asked. Thank you guys for coming, expressing your opinions. I think all you've got great ideas, and I think you come up here right now if you want, all five of you. So thank you for coming, and thank you for showing interest.
Yeah, thank you guys. And I'll just start with you, Mike. If you want to make any sort of closing statement, or if you're good as is, that's fine. Okay, Virgil, anything else you want to say before we close? And Virgil, just state your full name again, so those at home, and I'll ask each candidate to state your full name again, so the people at home know who's speaking.
Virgil Casebeer, North Bangor. It's, like I said in the beginning, you're competing with the best minds here. I know this place. I haven't been here 8-10 years. I've been here. My father's been here. My grandfather's been here. I know this place extremely well. I know every road, every bridge, every bordering municipality. I know them all. I have been here. Thank you.
Thank you, Virgil. John, anything?
A lot of supervisors that not a lot. I haven't been here that long. But the supervisors and a lot of town positions that I have seen, maybe initially starting off wholesome and then getting skewed somewhere down the line. And some people call it corruption, some people call it mismanagement. But that started a lot of resident versus resident troubles that we are still seeing, and it's going to take a while to get to the bottom of those things and really clean up the town and to make us into a nice quiet town again. When I first started coming to the town meetings, my first week here, I came to a town meeting and I introduced myself. I was one of 2 people, maybe 3 in the crowd. It was business as usual. Nothing's really happening with the town. The residents were all happy. And then things started to change. People got upset. They started to battle it out. So I would really like to see and like to help get back to the way where residents can be residents. They will vote on who they want. The people that they get in office are going to do the right thing for the town, that other people don't have to, oh, I gotta go to the town meeting because I gotta see how they're screwing me over this time. Or I'm seeing what changes they're trying to implement. I would like to get it back to a smaller government. And make it the way it is when I would have dropped everything, and I still would actually, but to come and live here. I'm not looking to gain anything as a Mount Bethel supervisor if I do get the position. I am 100% in it to make this town better for my children. That's the only reason that I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe? Okay, and Augie. Okay. Thank you again, candidates. Appreciate your time. And we will be in touch. And again, we meet on Monday, January 22nd, and we do have it on our agenda, appoint a supervisor. Whether we do appoint a supervisor on that day, I don't know yet. We'll wait for the supervisor discussion, but we will all let you know the outcome.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt, but just remember if there's anyone that wants to do public comment.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Thanks, Ron. Okay, so thank you, candidates. And at this time, we're going to open it up for public comment. We ask public comment relate to the candidates or to anything said during the interview, and you'll have 3 minutes for public comment. So that being said, I'll open the floor. Anybody want to come up for public comment? Yeah, Fred, come on up and just state your name, please, when you get up here.
Fred Clark, Crystal Terrace, Upper Mount Bethel. I don't have my usual 3-minute speech, but I just have some observations. First, I want to thank all the candidates for stepping up. A lot of talent here. I personally would like to see a new supervisor that's willing to listen to the concerns of people they don't agree with or even like. You might learn something you didn't know, or maybe your position is strengthened. I've talked to people on both sides of the RPL issue, and what concerns me is both sides aren't even willing to try to talk to the people on the other side because they believe no middle ground can be found. A true leader would be willing to talk. It is my hope that this board chooses a true leader. If you're not willing to talk to someone that you don't agree with, then you don't belong on this board. And I'm saying that to you guys too. None of you belong on the board if you can't talk to the people who offer the counter the other point. You need to have enough strength of character to talk to people you don't like, because God knows there's a lot of people around here that just aren't even willing to talk or listen to each other, and it is a toxic environment. And I'm sorry for that downer situation, but after the last meeting, I talked to people on both sides, and I got to tell you, it's concerning to me that the situation is that toxic. I suggest that you reach out to the former administration. You guys, reach out to the people that you don't agree with. Hear what they have to say. Maybe they won't talk to you. Well, then that's on them, all right? If they thought their positions were right in the past, they should be willing to continue articulating why they were right. If they can't do that, if they're not willing to do that, well, then maybe their positions weren't that strong, and maybe their conviction isn't what they purported it to be. So I'm just saying that I think that we all need to start talking here, all right? We don't have to sing Kumbaya, but we have to all start talking. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Anyone else, public comment? Eleanor.
just wanted to say
Oh,
thank you.
Eleanor, sorry, just state your name, please.
Eleanor Shelton. I just wanted to say thank you all. I look at the skill set and I see like business management, finance, forward vision, green, knowledge of the township, you know, a willingness to learn and a deep passion for all the things. And I'm so excited. And I feel like even if none of you, even if, well, one of you's hopefully going to get the position, I hope that you will continue to be engaged in some other manner or in some other committee or something. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Yeah, I think Eleanor made a great point, and I was thinking about that as well, is for those of you who don't get selected, I think you all bring something to the table, and I hope you stay involved with Upper Mount Bethel Township, whether it's being a supervisor or being a consultant or advisor or on a committee. We need people like you, and the person finishing out Supervisor Dew's term is up in 2025, so there is an actual campaign coming up very soon, so just keep that in mind. Anyone else? Public comment? Yeah, Judy.
Again, I'd like to thank you all and the person who isn't here
Judy,
tonight for...
Just say your name, Judy.
Judith Henkel, 1752 Robin Hood Road. And I'd like to thank you all. And as I listen to all the different, as Eleanor said, the variety of expertise here that we could bring, because it did get toxic and people didn't want to come and they didn't want to participate, sometimes because they were rebuffed. And so when I look back over some of the things that were said, yeah, it would be nice to talk to each other, but some people don't want to listen. So it's going to take a little while to break down the barriers. And one of the ways I'm thinking about that is some of you were saying, oh, it's a nice place, blah, blah, blah. Some people lived here forever, maybe don't appreciate it. New people coming in do. But for all the time I've been here, all those conservation organizations and groups that have come to help us with open space, with farmland preservation, with all our ordinances, came here because they valued what we had. And the reason we have so much open space or wetlands and whatever was the whole thing about the glaciers coming down over the ridge, leaving a lot of rock here, soil and depth to bedrock and all that stuff. It left us with wet areas, vernal pools and wetlands where there are special different species that aren't found other places. So we are thankful for that. And in the last, say, 20 years, we did bring different species back again. So I guess what I want to say with that is there's room for, and I would love to see it be sustainable, because where I come from as conservative, I think we've gone way overboard in our country and around the world in needing more and more and more. It's time to just think about, do we really have to have so much? Can we cut back on our needs? Can we be more resourceful in how we do things? And so in that regard, I want everybody to pay attention next week or whenever the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission comes to talk about the comprehensive plan for Planned Slate Belt that's been in the works for 3 years. And that is, how do we work with our 10 neighbors from Wingate to Portland, both the boroughs and the townships? How do we work together, and how do we plan professionally? And I'm saying professionally because this is a problem I saw we always had. We have people here who care about the township. They want to do things. But that's not their expertise in taking their hat off and just looking at what's the data set, what do we have? How can we use it? How can we utilize it in a way that doesn't destroy it? And that's what, I know some people don't like Lehigh Valley Planning Commission, but they're jobs. They went to school to learn how to do this. And that's what they have provided this last 3 years, all kinds of maps, all kinds of information. It's been on the website. They're going to come, and to a lot of people, they've never heard it before, and it's going to just seem overwhelming. But it's not. It's a way that we all look at what our resources are, how do we work together to make the most of them, and cooperate. So I think our committees, some of these people are some of our committees, we have gotten away from being to talk to each other. So that's my spiel, kind of. It's like, pay attention. We can do so much better here, but I think a little guidance. The only thing is, by working together, these 10 municipalities, we've had a partnership here, and we have not had to pay the full price of what we're getting. And that will be what happens in the future. Agreeing with this comprehensive plan is not the end-all to beat-all. It's the beginning. And we're still going to need planners, and we're still going to need people to help us to sort out what is sustainable development here. Can we get along with just a little bit more instead of expecting the golden goose to lay several eggs? So that's my spiel. Pay attention. Let's try to work together on planning for the future with our neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Anyone else, public comment? Yeah, Ron.
Good evening, Ron Angle, $1 Million Highway, Mount Bethel, Pennsylvania, US of A. I don't know everybody here well, but I can tell you I knew Virgil's dad, played with him as a son in North Bangor. I knew his granddad, and I knew his uncle. When his granddad would take a flathead Ford motor out and all the bolts was gone, his uncle would lift the motor right out of the car. I've never seen too many people could do that. He was strong. Anyway, I just wanted to quote a little bit John Adams. John Adams talked about the two-party system and democracy, and I've heard a great many comments here tonight, and some of them very interesting, and again, I would compliment all 5 of you for coming forward to offer your services. And the problem I think has become here is there is a two-party system. The problem is it's not like Democrats or Republicans. It's really not conservatives or liberals. It's actually concerned citizens and the rest of the township. That's really not a two-party system. So what has been created here is that unless you're part of the concerned citizens, you really don't have much of a say. And I think some of you have offered suggestions how you could change that, and that's very good. I'd like to hear that. And again, people need to talk to each other. There needs to be dialogue. But so far, the actions I've seen take place here has been, if you're a concerned citizen, you're going to get whatever. Other than 4 years in the United States Marine Corps, I've been here forever. Served in everything imaginable. And recently, my qualifications didn't qualify. Somebody else qualified who I'm not so sure they did have a residency. I don't know about a driver's license. It's always kind of interesting. But it's an example of concerned citizens and the rest of the township. Until that mentality changes, quite frankly, this township probably is not going to change. People need to know that there is room for everybody here, and not whether or not you're a member of concerned citizens. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else, public comment? Marty? Yeah.
Marty Penner, 39 Lindsay Lane, Mount Bethel. There was a book I read probably about 10 years ago when I took a global position, knowing that I was going to work with and meet with different folks from different parts of the world and from in an aspect of their cultures being extremely different. One of the books that I recommend the board as well as all of you guys take a look to read is by Doris Kearns Goodwin. It's a book which was about the Civil War and how President Lincoln filled his cabinet with all of his foes. People that did not agree, could not work together. Basically, they hated Lincoln. He brought him in, and that was his cabinet, because he knew that the best way to move forward was to get those folks talking back and forth. When I was on the board, I never turned down a phone call. I never turned down a discussion. from anybody. Anybody that called, I picked up the phone. Whether I knew or not that they liked me or not, I always picked it up. Because it was better to have that discussion. If you don't agree, then state your opinion. And I was very outspoken with my opinion. People will say that the prior board did not listen. That's not true. We heard every complaint, every clap, every boo. But the folks that made those decisions felt it was in the best interest of the township. You're going to need strong shoulders, because if you make a decision that the aforementioned folks do not like, you will be chum in the water, and they will come for you. It's happened to a bunch of us. I know that it's not all kumbaya. It's the reason why I took the position. I had big shoulders. I could handle it. I just want to make sure that you gentlemen have the ability to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty. Anyone else, public comment? We'll give you a minute anyway.
But sometimes it's best to give an example of something. Here's an example. Recently there was a vote taken by this board, which is not all, but pretty much concerned citizens. And the vote was not to pursue an accounting and a legal action against a resident who allegedly didn't account for money. And they decided that it wasn't worth spending the money to bring that person to justice for the missing money. Now we also got a situation with another agency of the township with money missing. So I would say to you, what do you think of a township that you're going to be a member of, I'm presuming, one of you, that doesn't choose to uphold the law, that doesn't choose to make people who've absconded with money accountable? And that's what's happened, okay? And that was the vote. And I'm waiting to look at the minutes. Cindy does an excellent job on the minutes. But I seen a head shake. And of course, if you come to the meetings at all, you'll notice it's usually 4-0 vote. But I seen a head shake to not do that. But I don't know what the official vote was. But frankly, I seen one of the members here who felt that wasn't the case. If we've got to spend $10,000 to bring the person to justice and accountable for the $8,000 in missing money for our park for the children, then there's something drastically wrong. Thank you. And I don't have any more time, so.
Thank you for your comments. Any other public comments? Okay, Fran, come on up. And just state your full name, Fran, please.
Francis Visicaro, 3001 North Delaware Drive. I'd like to thank all of you for coming forward and speaking how you would help us in our town. And I hope all of you, if you don't win the Board of Supervisor job, join the other positions that are open and help this town come together and heal. We need to heal. And I'd like to mention, I thought that the statements that the public were supposed to make is about this meeting, not things that are going on other than this meeting. That can be on Monday.
Thank you, Fran.
You're welcome.
All right, anyone else? Public comments? Okay, we're going to go back into executive session. I believe we have a legal issue to discuss. And do we have anything else?
Yeah.
What is it?
2 legal issues.
Okay, so we have 2 legal issues to discuss. We're going back into executive session, and we'll be back. Candidates, you can hang around if you want, but thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. First, you good to go? We'll call this meeting back into order. Supervisors went back into executive session. We went back there to discuss a couple of legal issues. Out of discussion with those legal issues, there is no action to be taken. So with that being said, yes,
Yeah,
sir.
I just, because I had forgotten, or at least forgotten to mention it when you went in, you also went in on a personnel matter.
Oh, yeah, and yeah, that's right. Personnel matter as well. That was with the candidates. That was our discussion to talk about the candidates, and no action will be taken tonight for that. It is on our agenda for the 22nd. You gentlemen are welcome to attend. It's a public meeting, starts at 7 p.m., and as far as we know, it'll be right here as of today. If anything changes, we'll let you know. That being said, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Anybody want to keep the meeting open? All right.
It's snowing, we gotta get home.
Everybody's got to get home. All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. No opposed. Have a good night.